Let's not waste time with fairy tales. Let's get straight to the truth. You've been fed a lie since birth. A big, fat, emotional lie, wrapped in flowers, white dresses, romantic comedies, and Disney movies. Marriage is supposed to be the final goal, the happy ending. But you need to ask yourself, is it your ending? Or someone else's idea of how your life should look? You grow up hearing things like, when are you going to settle down? Find a good woman and lock it down. And a man isn't complete without a wife. That kind of narrative is programmed into you before you even understand who you are. And here's the problem. If you never challenge that programming, you'll live a life based on someone else's blueprint. You'll make decisions that are rooted in fear, tradition, and weakness rather than logic, purpose, and control. The question isn't, should I get married? The question is, why do I even feel the need to? Strip away the social conditioning, the family pressure, the fantasy Hollywood sold you. What's left? A contract, a legal agreement that gives someone else leverage over everything you've built, and you're supposed to just sign it blindly, out of love. Most men don't even ask if marriage is right for them. They just do it because it's expected, because their mom wants grandchildren, because their girlfriend has started dropping hints, because they hit 30 and panicked. But let's get real for a second. Do you honestly believe a hive? Al, you man should be pressured into anything. Do you think a man who has goals, a mission, a kingdom to build, should bend to the emotional timelines of others? You grind for years to build a life. Money, freedom, strength. You work when others party. You sacrifice when others relax. You invest when others waste. You start becoming something dangerous, someone unshakable, independent, a weapon, and then what? You meet someone, and within a few months or years, you're expected to hand over control. To lock yourself into a legal agreement that could take everything if it goes wrong. That's not love, that's stupidity. That's like building $1 million business and then bringing in a partner with no experience, no capital, and no accountability. But worse, because in business you can sue, in marriage the system sues you. Let's talk about the system. When you marry, you're not just marrying a person, you're marrying the government. The law steps in and creates a bond that, in most cases, works against you. You can be a great husband, you can be loyal, faithful, supportive. But if she feels unhappy one day, boom, it's over, and who gets punished? You do. You think I'm exaggerating. Look at the stats. Look at the divorce rate. Look at the child custody rulings. Look at the alimony payments, the asset splits, the emotional devastation. Look at the men who were once powerful, ambitious, full of life, now reduced to shells, working 2 jobs to pay for a house they don't even live in. All because they believed the lie. Marriage used to mean something when men were respected as the head of the household, and the family was a unit built on trust and roles, when there was loyalty, honor, and a shared mission. But now it's a business transaction disguised as romance. Now it's a trap that turns the provider into the prisoner, and most men walk into it blind. They tell you marriage brings stability, that it gives you a home, a partner, a family. But here's the thing. If you're not already stable on your own, no woman, no ring, no ceremony will fix that. In fact, it will expose it. Marriage magnifies everything. If you're weak, it will crush you. If you're lost, it will bury you. The idea that you'll grow together is a lie. People grow apart more often than they grow together, because growth isn't automatic. It's intentional. And most people are not intentionally becoming better. They're drifting. Decaying, letting life beat them down while pretending things are okay. You see, marriage is often not about love, it's about dependency. Most people don't get married because they want to build. They get married because they're scared to be alone. They want someone to share the weight of life with. But instead of becoming stronger, they become weaker together. They compromise too much. They stop chasing excellence. They trade hunger for comfort. And don't come at me with, but what about love? Love fades, attraction shifts, people change, life hits you with curveballs. The person you marry today may not be the person you're married to in 10 years. And the system doesn't care why things fell apart. It only cares about what's on paper, and that paper usually bleeds you dry. Most guys who get married aren't building, they're settling, they're tapping out. They're saying, this is good enough. They choose ease over excellence. They prioritize peace over progress. And in doing so, they begin to lose themselves. Look around. Most modern marriages are driven by ego, pressure, or illusion. People get married to prove something, to check a box, to keep up with their friends, or worse, to trap someone before they leave. That's not love, that's fear. And fear is the root of weakness. And the ones who marry thinking it will fix their problems, they're the worst off. Maybe if we get married, things will get better. No, they won't. If it's broken before the ring, it'll be shattered after. If you can't communicate, can't build, can't align, marriage is a spotlight on that dysfunction. People use marriage as a band-aid, a distraction, a mask, but you can't build an empire on cracks. It'll collapse the moment real pressure hits. You need to face reality, not fantasies. Face your flaws, your gaps, your wounds. Don't hide them behind a honeymoon, and listen carefully. I'm not against love. I'm against delusion. You can love someone deeply without being legally trapped. You can build a life together without involving a third-party judge. If you need a legal contract to feel secure, what does that say about the trust in your relationship? Marriage in its current form is not about unity, it's about leverage, it's about control, and in that game, men usually lose. You need to understand that. You need to stop playing the game with someone else's rules. You need to take back your power. So what's the answer? The answer is to stop blindly following tradition. Stop doing what everyone else is doing just because it's what's always been done. Start thinking for yourself. Start asking hard questions. Start evaluating whether the systems in place actually serve you. Be a man who's complete on his own, who doesn't need a ceremony to feel fulfilled, who doesn't need a spouse to validate his worth, who doesn't need approval from society to feel like he's on the right path. You build yourself so well that your presence is the gift, that your leadership is the asset, that your life is so powerful, people want to be part of it. Not because you offer comfort, but because you offer clarity, purpose, and direction. That's the kind of man who can choose, not be chosen, who can walk through life with power, not pressure. Who can look at the idea of marriage and see it for what it really is, a decision, not a necessity, a strategic alliance, not a fairy tale ending. You don't owe anyone your commitment, you owe yourself your full potential. And you can't unlock that potential if you're tied to the wrong person, for the wrong reasons, in a system that's rigged against you. So don't ask yourself if you should get married. Ask if you're ready to take on that risk. Ask if you've built yourself into the kind of man who has options, who chooses out of strength, not desperation, who knows exactly what he's getting into and has the discipline to walk away if it no longer serves his mission. Because in the end, the man who walks alone with clarity is always stronger than the man who walks with someone and loses himself. People think that once you've made money, once you've built the body, once you've got options and influence, then the natural next step is to settle down and get married, as if life is a video game with one fixed level after the other. But what if the real power isn't in settling down? What if the real strength is in choosing your own path and not letting society dictate how your story ends? This isn't about being anti-women or anti-love. It's about being pro-truth. Most people aren't ready for the truth because it destroys the fantasy, and fantasies are comfortable, but a man chasing comfort is a man preparing for defeat. Marriage, for many men, is the final sedative. It dulls your edge. It kills your instinct to conquer, because when you get too comfortable, you stop evolving. Look around. The moment most men get married, something dies inside them. Their urgency disappears. Their hunger fades. They trade purpose for routine. They stop working out. They stop building. They start living for dinner dates, Netflix nights, and quality time. All the fire that once made them ambitious, competitive, and sharp gets buried under the soft layers of domestic life. You start hearing things like, "I can't, my wife wouldn't like that," or "I gotta check with the missus first." Imagine being a grown man, a warrior, a builder, and needing permission to live your life. You work like a beast to build freedom and then willingly hand it over in the name of love. That's not strength. That's submission wrapped in romance. They sell marriage to you as a partnership, but ask yourself, how often do men actually win in that deal? You're expected to provide, protect, pay the bills, suppress your desires, keep her happy, remain loyal, and in return, maybe you get peace, if she's in a good mood. But the moment she decides she's no longer fulfilled, she can destroy you with a signature. One day you're building a life together, the next day you're a visitor in your own home, sending checks to someone who no longer respects you. Modern marriage doesn't reward loyalty, it punishes predictability. When you stop being exciting, when you stop being the challenge, the thrill fades. That's human nature. And the sad truth is, many women in today's world don't value stability as much as they say they do. They want the fantasy and the freedom. They want the security of a ring with the excitement of a man who doesn't need them. And the moment you become too available, too soft, too familiar, they start looking elsewhere, if not physically, then emotionally. You see, marriage has changed. In a traditional world, a man provided and a woman honored that provision. She stayed loyal, raised the kids, maintained the home, respected the role. But in today's culture, those roles are blurred. Women are told they can do everything on their own, and many of them believe they don't need a man at all. So if she doesn't need you, and the law is on her side if things fall apart, why would you legally bind yourself to someone who benefits more from your downfall than your success? That's the core issue, incentives. The system doesn't incentivize loyalty, honor, or commitment. It rewards exit. It rewards drama. It rewards playing the victim. If she leaves, she gets half. If you leave, you lose everything. You think love is enough to protect you from that imbalance. It's not. Emotions change, contracts don't. Now let's say you want to have kids. That's the most common reason men give for getting married. But you don't need marriage to be a father. You need responsibility. You need structure. You need control. A smart man sets up his legacy in a way that protects it. You create financial boundaries. You protect your assets. You don't gamble your empire on emotional bets. You create life on your terms, not under the gun of a biased system. Ask yourself this: if your woman really respects you, if she really believes in your leadership, your vision, your future, why would she need a legal document to stay with you? Why wouldn't your word be enough? Why wouldn't the life you're building be enough of a reason for her to stay loyal? The only reason people demand contracts is because they already anticipate failure. And if you're planning your union based on the expectation of failure, you've already lost. Ahai, Val, your man is not anti-commitment. He's anti-weakness. He's anti-distraction. He's anti-vulnerability to a system that's been rigged against him. You want to build a life with someone? Fine, but let them earn it. Let them prove they understand your mission. Let them walk beside you without needing a paper to feel secure. If the only thing keeping them around is a contract, they were never yours to begin with. The truth is, you don't need marriage to be fulfilled. You need purpose, you need power, you need direction. And if someone fits into that journey, great. If not, you don't shrink yourself to make them comfortable. You don't sacrifice your edge to appease emotions. You don't hand over the keys to your kingdom just to feel complete. Most men rush into marriage because they feel time is running out. They feel the pressure. Everyone around them is settling down. They see their friends having weddings, baby showers, family vacations, and they feel behind. But let me ask you this: who are you racing, and where are they actually going? Most of the people you're comparing yourself to are miserable behind closed doors. They're in relationships where there's no passion, no growth, no alignment, just obligation and survival. Marriage doesn't guarantee happiness. It guarantees responsibility, and if you're not ready for that, if you haven't mastered yourself, built your kingdom, sharpened your discipline, then that responsibility will crush you. It'll suffocate your potential. It'll drain your energy, because you'll be trying to carry someone else while you haven't even stabilized yourself. Build the life first. Build the body, the wealth, the mindset, the discipline. Get so good that your existence is undeniable. Then and only then can you consider sharing that with someone, not because you need to, but because it adds to your already complete life. And even then, be strategic, protect yourself, have boundaries. Think long-term. Don't marry for emotion, marry for empire, marry for legacy. Marry someone who understands that your purpose comes before pleasure, someone who sharpens you, not softens you, someone who respects the war you fight daily and supports it with loyalty, not drama. But even then ask yourself, what does the legal aspect add to your life? Is it worth the risk? Can you achieve the same connection without the paper? Can you build something meaningful without exposing yourself to destruction? If the answer is yes, then why invite unnecessary risk? Because here's the truth they don't want to tell you. The most powerful men on the planet don't move like everyone else. They don't follow the same rules. They don't do things because it's tradition. They evaluate, calculate, and act with precision. They don't marry because it's expected. They marry, if ever, because it's strategic. It protects their brand, their bloodline, their business. And they always move from a position of power, not pressure. If the world were truly fair, if laws favored balance and both parties held equal risk, this conversation would be different. But the world isn't fair. The laws aren't balanced, and pretending otherwise is how men lose everything. So you have two choices. You can stay blind and follow the path everyone else walks, or you can wake up, take control, and build your own version of life. One that's built on strength, clarity, and absolute power. You don't need marriage to be a man. You don't need a ring to be respected. You don't need permission to lead. You just need to wake up from the fantasy and start making decisions like a man who knows his worth, his path, and the price of giving it away to the wrong person or system. Because the truth is, the strongest men in the world aren't the ones who say, "I do." To tradition, they're the ones who say, "I will," to purpose and never look back. So here's the bottom line. Marriage is not the prize. You are. Your time, your energy, your mission, your empire. That's the real value. And unless a woman amplifies that, strengthens it, protects it, and aligns with it, you don't owe her anything, not a ring, not a contract, not your legacy. Stop chasing tradition. Start chasing truth. This life is war, and your focus is your weapon. Don't dull your blade for anyone who doesn't bleed loyalty. Stay sharp, stay dangerous, and above all, stay free.